Hello there, folks. Hey, this quick video today is going to talk about using a FlexEdge product as a cell modem to give you access to HMIs you might have local. So in this example, I'm using a DA70 with a cell modem in it, and I've got a number of other RedLion products connected to a local network here that have web pages on them, and I'd like them all to be accessible via the DA70's cell modem setup. So here, I've got the DA70 program open, and this particular database happens to have a Wi-Fi sled, dual Ethernet, and cell modem. This conversation today is going to focus on the cell modem. So I got a cell modem in this guy, and if I slide on down to my interfaces, I want you to notice that I got Ethernet 1 set up as an IP address of 192.168.1.20. Ethernet 2 in this example is the default 222.222, and I'm not doing anything with Ethernet 3 or 4 in this one, so I'm not even interacting with them. Here's the modem setting. I got that set up all in here. That all works. I can get an IP address, and I'm working good there. So that's okay there. But what I want to do is take these other units, and I want them to get access to the internet so I could come into this unit and see their web page. And what I mean by the other units, if I go, let's see here, team, I've got open, I've got here a CR3K 4-inch screen right here. I'm using a CR3K. This is Crimson 3.1. I want you to notice here on this guy over in communications, I have set up on the Ethernet here. I've got it set up for this fixed IP address of .40 right here. But I want you to notice down here that the gateway address is 192.168.1.20. That is the IP address of the DA70 Ethernet 1. That's this address here. So what I'm doing is I'm telling this unit that to get out to the outside world, you're going to use the DA70 Ethernet 1. So that's that setting there. Nothing else in here has changed. I did do one other change. I got my display page, which you'll see here in a second. Down here, web server, I am using port 81. The default is port 80, but I'm using port 81 because I have a number of products here. So this one I'm saying is going to use port 81 to get to the web page on this guy. Okay, so I want you to kind of remember that. This one's 81, and I also happen to have a DA30 in my setup here. So the DA30 has a local IP address of 192.168.1.30. But again, notice the gateway on this one is set to .20, which is the IP address on Ethernet 1 on my DA70 that has a cell modem. That tells it how to get out to the world. And then if I go to the web server on this guy, let me slide up here to the top, team. That's weird. Why can't I get to the top here? Let me make this full screen maybe. Well, there it is. Okay, sorry. So I'm using port 82 on this one. So that's port 82 on that particular guy there. And then I also have on here, I have a DA70 as well connected to this network, another DA70. So in my other DA70, if I go to Ethernet 1 on this one, notice the static IP address I got here. But again, notice the gateway here is set to .20, which is the IP address of the other DA70 that has the cell modem. And then on this guy, the only thing I'm doing here a little different, not really different, but down here in the web server, this one I'm using port 83. So I want you to remember 81 is for the CR3K 4-inch, 82 is going to be for the DA30, and 83 is for the DA70. So that's what I have set up there. Now back at my DA70 has the cell modem, what I'm doing here then is if I slide down a little bit here in the device configuration, I'm going to go here to the port forwarding rules. And in the port forwarding rules, I set up some port forwarding rules here. And you can see them right here. I'll show you how to, I'll add a new one here, which we're not going to use, but I'll add in, let's say I had another HMI here. Let's just call this one HMI, whatever. I'm going to do all the interfaces for this one. And say I had another one that's using port 84, for instance. I'd put an 84 here, and I would put the fixed IP address of that unit. So in this case, we know that our other units are set up as 192.168.1.30 for the DA30, 40 for the CR3K 4-inch, and 70. So in this case, if I had something else, I don't have anything else here, but I'd put something in like this, and I'd put 84 here, and that's it, and I'd click OK, and that would take care of the other rules. So you can see the other ones are set up right here. If I hit the edit button, you can see the meat and potatoes. That guy is going to .40, 81 in. That means it's coming in from the cell world, and I'm going to direct it to the target port on that guy with that IP address. If I go to the other one here, there's the DA30. It's using port 82. Same difference there. And then the DA70 is this one right here. and you can see it's using port 83 to that IP address. So that's what I'm doing here. I like the fact you can label them here. That's pretty sweet. Anyway, that's all that's running on here. So if I quickly save this and download this unit, even though we're not using this 84, it shouldn't affect us, I hope, anyway. So that's what I'm running. If I go over to my web server here, I want you to see something. Here is the tab of the web server locally on my network. And what I mean by locally is look at the IP address up here. You see 192.168.1.20. That is the local address here on my network, here on my table. If I go to this one here, I'm looking at 40. But see this one, I'm going to port 81. So I put a colon at the end of the IP address and that port number 81, which gets me to here. I click remote view, and I'm seeing the default page of that guy, nothing too exciting. If I go to the DA30, notice IP address 192.168.30:82, which gets to this view. Again, this is on the local network. I'm not on the cell, not on the internet yet. And then if I go to DA70, you can see there I've got :83. So if I go back to the main listing, there's the main listing, hit remote view, and that's that. So all of these tabs are currently looking at my local network here on my desk. So what I want to do, though, is I want to go out to the internet, and I want to use the IP address that my cell modem's getting. So I put on the screen get net IP for that interface. Oh, I should show you how to do that. Let me show you something real quick here, because you're going to ask, how did you know that? Well, if I go over to my display pages, and if I go to the right side, go to System, expand the functions, and then down here in Network, there's a function here called get net IP. You can just drag that on the screen like so, and then if you double click on it, you can change what port number. And so the port number will pertain to that particular interface. And I think, let me look here, team. If I go back over here, so this is port 1. You see right here, port 1. This one here is port 2. This is port, it's interesting, but anyway, if I go down here to my modem, it's got sled 3. Doesn't really give you a port number there, but let me go back to my display page here. And I think this one here is given internet number 5. Where have I got 5? That's a good question. Let me look at my display page. Yeah, it's that bottom one. That's interesting. We'll have to figure out how I must have put a bunch in. Somehow I got to port 5. I wonder where you get that port 5. If I look here, it gives this. It doesn't give you that port number. Does it give it over here? No, it doesn't. Anyway, so anyway, that's port 5, and that's what's giving me the IP address of that particular port on that unit. So now, if I go back to my web browser, and let's say, team, that I hit the plus symbol here, I'm going to open a new tab. And if I just start typing some numbers here, I should be able to go down to that IP address, and I can put in here that IP address right here. Now, I didn't put a port number this time, so if I hit the remote view, I see the same thing here through the cell modem interface versus this one here, which is the local. So this is looking at that guy. However, if I go back and if I add a colon to this, :81, this time I bring up the CR3K, that's going through the cell modem. And if I change this to look at port 82, now I'm looking at the DA30. And of course, if I change this to look at port 83, there's the DA70. So that's just a quick example of how you can do port forwarding in the RedLion FlexEdge to give you cell access to remote HMIs that you might have on a site. So I think it's really easy. I really enjoy the ease of setting up the port forwarding rules in here, and that's pretty much all I did. The input port goes to the outward port here, matches. The only caveat, the only real thing you've got to remember, team, is that when you're setting up your Ethernet ports on your devices, whether they're RedLion or something else, but when you're setting it up, you got to set up the gateway address in those remote devices to be the IP address of the unit that's getting out to the outside world, which is my DA70, and I'm using Ethernet 1. There's that .20, so all of those are pointing back to here, and then that's how they get to the outside world. So when I come in through the cell modem, my port forwarding rules take effect, and that's what gets me to the right HMI locally on my network. Anyway, pretty cool video. If you're using other companies' products out there for cell access, you might consider the RedLion FlexEdge. I'm using the DA70 here. You can certainly use the DA50 to do the same thing with the cell modem sled in there just as easily as this here. It operates the same way. Anyway, if you want to copy these databases or anything, please don't be afraid to put a note on the YouTube thing, and I'll be glad to send it to you. You got to put your email address there. Anyway, thanks a lot, team. Have a great day. We'll see you later.